I do think it's a little weird that Io is the love interest in this movie. It's not the story, and it's also just sort of weird that they decide to make like an ageless borderline god, but not quite a god, his love interest and not Andromeda, which again, like in alternate ending, she is the love interest. And it's actually really interesting because when Perseus goes into the water, he goes in there to save Andromeda, and he goes and kisses her to give oxygen to her, and that's where she like almost comes back to life, and she sees that he's kissing her, and she starts to kiss him back, and he's like, oh, that's not what I'm doing.
Dragon claw, wing and scale. Come now, let's examine a tale of the greatest beast ever considered. Another episode of Big Flying Lizards.
Hello, welcome to Big Flying Lizards, a dragon movie and television podcast. I am your host, Bryce Wilson, and we are back. We have Janell Rhiannon back, author extraordinaire, podcast Greek mythologist extraordinaire with Alexander the Great. We will be talking extensively about all things mythology, as well as Red Rising and anything possible under the sun. Janell, how are we doing?
Doing great. I've just finished rewatching the Clash of the Titans, the one that we're going to talk about. I rewatched that over 2 days. Last night, and I was like, I don't remember it being so good. Like, I remember the first time it came out, I think I was like, oh, that's good. But then coming off of watching the first one, I was like, this is pretty good. How did I miss this?
I'm going to actually go, because I think that you and I are very much in a line that we just want to kick this off and get right into it. So I'm going to go ahead, introduce the film, and then I'm going to give you a hot take that I have about this movie.
Okay. And I didn't mean to cut you off. We can talk about anything.
No.
We can go down the Darrow Road or the Greek mythology road.
This is what we do. This is we can talk about everything and we can talk about nothing. That's the joy of this podcast. But I'll go ahead and introduce the film. We are going to be talking about Clash of the Titans. Clash of the Titans is a 2010 action fantasy film and remake of the 1981 film of the same name, produced by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, rights of which had been acquired by Warner Brothers in 1996 through purchase of Turner. The story is loosely based on the Greek myth of Perseus. An international co-production between the United States, United Kingdoms, and Australia, the film is directed by Louis Leterrier and stars Sam Worthington, Gemma Arterton, Mads Mikkelsen, Alexander Dolvis, Rolf Fiennes, and Liam Neeson. The film originally set the standards to be released on March 26, 2010, but was later announced that it would be converted to 3D and was released April 2nd of 2010. Clash of the Titans was a commercial success, grossing $493 million worldwide and became one of the highest grossing films of 2010, but received mostly mixed to negative reviews from critics, with praise from its epic scale, visual style, the performance of Neeson, Finesse, and Arrington, but criticism for Letier's direction, Worthington's performance, and post-production 3D conversion. The film's success led to a sequel, Wrath of the Titans, that was released in March of 2012. Now, before we get diving overall, I will agree, this was actually a lot of fun and a lot better than I initially remember it. But the main reason I think that it was so good is because this movie is meant to be watched right after watching the 1981 version, because there's so many Easter eggs and so many, I don't want to say it's the adult version of it, but it feels like the grim dark version of the 1981 version of the movie. And I actually think that it does it a little bit of a disservice to be so much of like, it's obviously not a sequel, but it feels like in the same vein of a sequel. They're trying to imitate that first one too much. And I would have rathered it be almost like a copy and paste, or I would have rathered it just be completely independent from its own. But I really did like it, but I think that that's the main reason that it wasn't as successful to critics, because it was so much of an homage to the 1981 version.
I didn't catch all the Easter eggs except for the owl. So when they're in the armory and he's pulling out, like, what's that the little chirping noise, and he pulls it out like, what's this? Nothing or whatever. Just junk. I'm like, no, it's Archimedes. You gotta take it.
Well, see, that's the thing where I'm like,
I didn't remember that the first time I watched it, which was
I
years ago, but I was like, wait a minute, that was probably
and
because I hadn't seen the first one, like what you said.
well, that's the thing when I had never seen it, and so, like, when I saw that, I'm like, "Huh, that's weird." Like, I don't even remember like, I'm sure that's what I would have thought if I would have seen that scene because it really did just feel out of left field, and I don't know. I do just want like, think Sam Worthington, which I feel a little bad for Sam Worthington because I do feel like he gets the short end of the stick so often from people because he isn't as talented as a lot of like the main actors that are out there, but he still is a huge actor. He's the main
Yeah.
guy in the Avatar movies that are out right
Yeah.
now.
I
So,
I think he I think he I thought he did a great Perseus.
yeah,
There's a part of Greek mythology it's always gonna be sorta campy. You
yes.
remember Xena, warrior princess? Like, when you go back and look at that, that was so campy. But you have to be when you're introducing all these creatures and as villains,
Yeah.
and it's not you can't take it that serious. I don't know,
Oh,
you
for
know what I
sure.
mean? Like, it's serious, but it's fantastical.
No,
You know what I
I
mean?
definitely I completely agree with that. One thing I also really do appreciate about this movie is in a lot of ways, I feel like with the 1981 version, they tried to make it a little Disney-ish, where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, he saves Andromeda, they get married, and it's like they live happily ever after sort of thing. And that might be what's more accurate with this myth of Perseus. But in this one, like she's not even well, funny enough, I don't know if you know this, there's an alternate ending for this movie
Mm.
that and in that alternate ending, he does actually kiss Andromeda and he doesn't and the one lady doesn't get brought back. It's really weird. I want to dive into it a little bit deeper because I went back and watched it. It's just on YouTube. If you want to go and watch it on
Oh,
YouTube,
yeah.
it's starts right when Andromeda goes into the water when the Kraken spoiler alert when the Kraken turns to stone and falls apart. But like we said in the intro, I think that both Ralph, who was Hades, and Liam Neeson were fantastic in this movie.
Mhm.
And I know I mentioned last time we talked that I hate it that they always portray Zeus looking the oldest, but I actually do think that Ralph did look older than Zeus in this one. Poseidon looked young as hell. Poseidon looked like he was 20 years younger than Zeus, but Zeus still
Mhm.
looked like the more powerful version of Hades in that.
I was kinda bummed we didn't get to really see that much of the gods. We saw most of, with Liam Neeson, we saw mostly Zeus, we saw mostly, obviously Hades, but, like, there was, like, the little, like, Apollo. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a good idea, and, like, that was pretty much it. That's all we saw,
Well,
and he was the Dracula guy. I don't remember his
yes.
Luke, what's his name? I don't remember his name. Terrible. But
Uh,
he was Dracula in the Dracula movie I like.
I'm pulling a blank on that.
See.
Really quickly, I want to pull up because there's apparently they very much Lewis, the director, he took a lot of inspiration from the Japanese manga Knights of the Zodiac for their design of the gods because in this manga, the gods wear this like holographic armor that's almost made of light and I actually really liked that because whenever it showed Zeus had this like
He was
almost
kinda glowy.
yes, but it
Yeah.
specifically was his armor, it wasn't like his person, it was
Right.
and I really thought that that was a nice little touch, but I also loved how close Mount Olympus resembled in the 1981 version. There was even,
Mhm.
like, the wall with the little figurines of everybody in
Mhm.
it.
And the central map where the map was just the earth, and
Yeah,
they in that one scene where when Hades comes in, he's just, like, walking on it. So I thought that was interesting. So they just said it had the circle that looked down on the world, which is kind of how I would think the gods would be doing it, right? They're looking down and checking it out.
did you
It was Luke Evans
Luke
as
Evans?
Apollo as Apollo.
Yes, that's right, that's right. No, he wa like, we did get, like, 2 seconds of him there, and then he's gone.
Right? Yeah. I don't know.
Well, and I know that Ares is very much involved in the Wrath of the Titans, which is the sequel, because he's spoiler alert, he's responsible of, like, trying to release Kronos from Tartarus, and that's a big part of the story there.
I haven't seen Wrath of the Titans. I
It's
don't
not
think
as
I've seen
good.
it.
If you go into it just wanting a fun action film, you're gonna get it, and I will say this, I think that, what was it, 1998 Hercules did the
Yeah.
most anti-Hades propaganda that I've ever seen out there. Because from what I understand, Hades is not necessarily an evil god. It's just people hate death and like they fear death. But Hades himself is more like, I hate the job I have. It's not like he
Mm,
hates the gods. It's like,
mm,
why am why I'm forced to be the emo boy? Like that's really all it
yeah.
is. But
And you know what? I couldn't not see. Didn't he do Voldemort?
yeah, he was
I
Voldemort
couldn't.
too.
I couldn't not hear and see Voldemort.
Well, do you know what's the craziest part to me? And I completely forgot about it, but got reminded. One of my all-time favorite movies is The Prince of Egypt, the animated film that came out. He's
Mhm.
Ramesses in The Prince of Egypt. He's the voice actor of Ramesses. He actually does like a solo singing with Val Kilmer because Val Kilmer
No
is
way.
is Moses. The movie's stacked. Patrick,
Yeah.
what's the guy from Star Trek? Patrick,
Stewart.
yeah, Patrick Stewart, he's the father of Moses and Ramesses in that film. He's the old pharaoh. Danny Glover is Moses's father-in-law. It's got a
That's
crazy
crazy.
Steve Martin's in that, but
Steve Martin. Oh my
he's
god.
he's one of the priests in it. It's
That's
really a
funny.
crazy film. And again, like it's for me top 5 movie of all time. I know I'm a little biased, but it is seriously so good in my opinion.
I don't think I've actually seen the whole thing of that. The whole Prince of Egypt. I don't know if I've seen bits and pieces of it.
I'm not a big musical guy. I love the
That's
Prince of
probably
Egypt.
why, because I'm not a big musical person. Everybody's like, all my friends, do you like epic?
It's not accurate.
Is it a musical? No. Yeah, it's not. Well, I did watch the first one,
Yeah.
you know, and so I was like, okay, they got Odysseus trying to decide whether he's gonna kill Neoptolemus or not, or excuse me, Astyanax or not. And you're like, okay, that's true.
And he
They
does.
covered that, and he does. Yeah, and, depending on your sources, either Neoptolemus, Achilles' son, or Odysseus does it, depending on which way you go, or that Odysseus egged Neoptolemus on to do it, or I guess an epic if Odysseus does it.
Well, I personally like the idea of it being Odysseus because Odysseus is the one who came up with the plan of the Trojan horse. Like he's the
Mhm.
and I almost like the idea of like, okay, you're the because again, if you really think again, I love the idea. It's great for literature, it's a great for story, but Odysseus is out here committing war crimes. Like
Oh,
Odysseus is
everybody thinks that yeah, and so they did cover that in Epic, as far as I know, little snippets, but I haven't. I'm just not a big musical person,
see,
like my musical taste is I like Phantom of the Opera because it's dark.
yes. Well, here's the I love Phantom of the Opera. With Wicked coming out, everyone's been obsessed with it. And again, Nana's gonna be in the comments hating me for this. I
Mhm.
hate Wicked. I hate Wicked. There is not a single song of Wicked that like if I could go the rest of my life without listening to a single song from Wicked,
Mhm.
I'd die happy. I
I've never seen it, and I'll never see it. I like Les Mis because it's tragic. I did write and produce, a musical, Odyssey, so that happened, but
okay.
that was because I wrote it, and then, local oh my god, what do you call it when somebody writes music?
Compose?
A composer, oh my god. At this time of the day, like, all my intelligence cells are kinda got used up today.
No, I
Anyway, yeah, a local composer wrote a full orchestra for it, it was great.
oh,
So
that's
that
awesome.
was I know, it was great. And it was the last musical that he wrote.
Wow.
I know because he passed not long after that. I'm trying to think of other musicals that I
Well, while you're thinking, like, I will say, if you like that more darker, it's Prince of
Mhm,
Egypt is dark in its own way. It's obviously not like super dark since it is technically a children's film, but at the same
mhm,
time, I love the dark complexity of because they show this story where Ramesses and Moses are as close as brothers, and
mhm,
God almost pits Moses against Ramesses, like saying, "Hey, you
mm,
have to go and save your people." But Moses is trapped in this place where he was raised as an Egyptian. He is brothers to Ramesses. And so he's like,
mhm,
I want to protect my people, but I also love my brother.
mhm.
And it's sort of fascinating to see like how God is almost like Moses is really just a tortured soul. He's like, I've got to do what's best for my people, but I love my brother so much and don't
Yeah,
want to
it's kind of a no-win. You're gonna lose. It's a
yeah, at least
lose-win,
lose.
win-lose, you know? Remember the old did you ever watch the Ten Commandments, like the 1950s? Was it the fi is 50s?
I
But
think so.
Charlton Heston, the young Charlton Heston, the Moses?
Yeah,
And, the Yul Brynner, right? Wasn't
I
he
think so.
Ramses?
I think
Yeah,
so.
he's bald and he did The King and I.
It's been such a long time since I've seen
Oh,
it, but I know that that movie is significant for significant reasons over there.
mhm, and
But
that was anyway,
no,
the
no,
complexity of the brother relationship being raised, that I remember that from that film.
no, I really love that, and I especially just love that it's not as because, I mean, if you read the Bible and you just read especially the Old Testament, it very much does feel like, Moses goes there and and he does the 13 or whatever plagues of Egypt, and then the Israelites get released, but that's not really what this story is like. No, each one is, like, torturing and one of the best songs I've ever heard is, like, when Moses is enacting all the plagues, and it's like, you can just he's, like, singing, like, "We were brothers, I don't wanna do this, like, why do you hate like, I don't want you to hate me, but you've gotta let my people go, you've gotta release them, you've gotta let them free,"
Mhm,
and it's like Ramesses like, "I loved you, you were the most important person in my life, you are literally killing our people, what are you doing? I'm never
mhm,
gonna let your people go," and it's just, like, a back and forth, and it's just you can hear the podcast knows I'm a big simp for Val Kilmer. Like when I saw Val
mm,
Kilmer in the Willow movie, I was like, that's an attractive man.
right. The Willow, gosh, I forgot he was in Willow.
And he's hot in Willow.
Yeah,
He's
it's
also in
kinda
Top Gun.
yeah, right, yeah,
Rest in peace, Val Kilmer.
right. Well, didn't he do, Kilmer, didn't he do Weird Science? Wasn't he in that
Ah,
one too?
I think so. I need to look and see if he was. I'll
I
check
remember
that out.
that was the young Val Kilmer. That was
Ye
probably back in the with the first, Top Gun movie.
Well, I know that especially just with his battle with cancer and a lot of his health issues that he wasn't able to act as much as, like, Tom Cruise has been acting because I think they're
Mhm.
like which is crazy to think that Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer are roughly around the same age. Like,
Yeah.
that's I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise is a vampire over here, just not aging. Because even when you see him in the new Top Gun movie, like, Tom Cruise looks the same exact, and Val Kilmer is
Yeah.
literally in, like, hospice, essentially.
Right. Yeah. That was a good one. I used that in my history and film class for propaganda.
Ooh.
And when propaganda fits your narrative, you don't see the propaganda.
Mhm.
So when it fits your idea of, this one was like it's pro US military basically. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against being my dad was a lifetime Navy man, but it is a propaganda to make the military look in such a glowing way without looking at the negative parts of it too. Anyway,
Well, again,
and the
not
flags everywhere, but it's a propaganda can be subtle.
well, and again, not to dive into that rabbit hole too deeply, but I
Mm,
remember when American Sniper came out, and
mm,
that's very much an American propaganda film because I remember there's a particular scene where they're talking about I think it's the first time he kills somebody in Afghanistan or Iraq or whichever country it is, and it's talking about the situation, and it's a child that's holding a gun and he kills that child, but in actuality, it was a woman who was holding a child who also had a gun, and so it's like and again, like, if they would have portrayed that, it would not have invoked like, it still is a heartbreaking scene, but it would not
mhm.
have it would have been a lot more of like, "Oh, this is a lot darker than"
Yeah. Yeah, it's much more complex.
Yeah.
You know, it's kinda like in Red Rising.
Mhm.
You know, the Rising has its propaganda, which is Darrow,
Yeah. Well,
which
I mean,
breeds and that's how that you know, and then we had Ephraim and Lyria hating Darrow,
yeah, because
hating their liberator.
and it's because they were promised a better life, and
Mhm,
in a lot of ways, life got worse for them because
mhm,
it's again, we could dive down that rabbit hole all day. But if
mhm.
it's all right with you, I'd love for us to jump into chapter
Yeah,
1 that I have here of the film,
yeah,
unless any other
yeah,
general.
no, let's do it. No, let's go.
All right. Chapter 1, The Defiance of Man. The world is forged from shadows of the Titans, broken only when Zeus unleashes the Kraken to seal the gods' victory. In the aftermath, the three brothers carve up all of existence, where Zeus claims the heavens, Poseidon the tides, and Hades is cast into the gloom of the underworld. Centuries later, the worship that sustains the gods has withered into defiance, where King Achelous leads siege against Olympus itself. Zeus descends in a flash of divine retribution, fathering a demigod, Perseus, upon the king's own wife. Cast into the sea in a wooden chest, the infant Perseus is saved by a fisherman, Spyros, growing up among the salt and scales of a humble life, until the world of the gods and men finally collide. In a moment of mortal hubris, soldiers of Argos topple the Colossus statue of Zeus as an act of war and brings the wrath of the Furies. Amidst the chaos, Hades rise from the depths, shattering Perseus's world, claiming his family. Dragged to the court of Argos, Perseus witnesses the ultimate vanity. Queen Cassiopeia compares her daughter's beauty to the gods. Hades appears in a swirl of shadow, withering the queen where she stands, issuing a horrific ultimatum. Sacrifice Princess Andromeda to the Kraken in 10 days, or see Argos wiped from the map. Now, I first want to just say, I personally like the direction that they went with getting Perseus on this quest
Mhm,
more than what it was in the 1981 version. Because in the 1981 version, she has to do all these riddles to figure out who, like, if he can marry her or not. And I mean, it feels a little bit Disney-esque, while this very much is like, no, the humans have declared war against the gods, and it's sort of man's hubris that's led him to this direction. And I also really love the idea of, and again, we see it in a little bit in Red Rising, where
mhm.
the gods, like the Titans
Is that
created the
right?
gods, and the gods overthrow the Titans. And man was created by the gods, and now man's trying to overthrow the gods. And in a lot of ways, people just sort of laugh and scoff because they're like, hey, this could never happen. Like, men is so much weaker than the gods. But I'm sure that's also like, if the mythology of the Titans, I'm sure they had a very similar thing, like, oh, we're so much more powerful than the gods. Like,
Mhm.
we have all the power. We're their parents. And I sort of like that just endurance of man, but at the same time, I also am like, well, man gets sort of shellacked in this one.
I thought the humans were you know, Hades when Hades came up out of the ocean, he and the Argosian soldiers were toppling the statue.
Yeah.
They got decimated immediately, like,
Oh
"You're
yeah.
gone." How would and but the king and queen didn't seem to know that that happened or that it did happen, and they were just pushing it under the carpet. 'Cause I'm like, "What?" And then the queen was very, she was pretty ballsy, I thought. You know, here comes Hades, he whips in. Because if I saw something like that, some giant dark smoke whip through like a hurricane and manifest into, like, you know, a man, you would have to assume that that was a god. She was pretty like, "Well, what are you doing?" And sticking her chin up at him like, "You know, that's
Well,
pretty ballsy, lady.
so
And 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 now you're ashes."
the only criticism that I actually give that, because I agree that it's, I wish we would have seen more of a consequence of men not praying to the gods anymore,
Mhm,
because it seemed like the gods still had all their power in Hades. Like, obviously, at the end, Hades is like, "They pray to me now. They don't pray to you anymore, Zeus." And, like, that's trying to
And he was
portray, like,
kinda kicking Zeus's butt a little bit,
yeah.
because Zeus tried to, but you're right, we didn't see and maybe that was, I'm trying to think. That was the whole point of, well, Hades had a plan, I guess. He knew from the beginning.
What I would have portrayed as different is, like, I would have loved there to be scenes where Zeus is like, maybe Zeus is up in the clouds and watching his people, like, tear down his statue, and you see him try to form a lightning bolt and it like sizzles out. And so
Yeah,
then he sends Hades Furies down. Cause and I
right.
really like that idea of maybe, okay, like, instead the gods are like commanding their creatures to do their fighting for them. And
Mhm.
Hades can be like in the shadows, like still practicing his powers, and it's only getting more powerful. And that that again, like, yes, you're adding more time to the film, but I feel like that would have made a lot more of an impact showing like, hey, since men are not praying to the gods, this could have made a bigger difference and a bigger impact. Not to say, again, I really enjoyed this scene where they bring
Right.
Perseus into the throne room and Hades wipes out all the soldiers, like literally kills all of the soldiers in there, and then kills the queen. And
And he
like,
did, and Hades and Perseus was unaffected, and so
yeah,
you had that the big screenshot of Hades saying, "Oh, interesting." That's all he says is "interesting," because
yeah,
he's noticing that, oh, he must be a demigod. But you're right about the praying aspect. We don't see the gods weakening in their power, and the conversation, I guess, was a little bit lacking. Like Zeus did it. There's not a lot of pushback. Because Zeus, Hades comes in and gives his, I don't know, 2-minute appeal. And then Zeus says, yeah, release the Kraken. Okay. I
full,
guess we had to get to that part of release the Kraken
yeah.
for the whole movie. But there wasn't Zeus didn't seem to be suffering. And the other gods, that's what I mean when they showed Luke Evans. We saw Apollo for 2 seconds, and Apollo was sort of cautious, like, no, you can't do that. There was a lot of ways they could have showed that the gods were suffering, right?
Yeah.
And worried, and which would have been, prime for Hades to come in. It was just kind of too easy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It
No,
was too easy.
it really was too easy, and and again, I don't know how much they could have actually gone into that and shown that the gods' powers are weakening, but at the same time, like, I still really like that they portray this because the last time we talked about it in the 1981 version, like, the gods were the villains, but they weren't the villains, but they were,
Mhm.
but they weren't. And like Io, no, it wasn't Io, it was what's her name? Achilles' mother is the villain.
Thetis.
Yeah,
Thetis.
Thetis.
Yeah, and Thetis can't be a villain. I don't like that. I don't like that for Achilles. I don't like it.
Well, that
She
sounds
was
like some
never there's no
Achilles problem.
story. Yeah. There's no basis for that.
Well,
Like, literally in any myth, like, they literally pull that out of their ass.
here's my question. She's a sea goddess, right, as well?
Right, right.
Well, and, personally, and again, you might disagree with me, I like the idea of Poseidon being more of an evil god than
Mhm,
Hades being an evil god because in a lot of ways, like, yes, death is scary, but death is also like the idea of death. It's there's so there's a it's the whole Gandalf quote. Like, if you think death is the end, like there's so much more. Like, you
mhm.
only view it as, and like maybe I'm wrong, but I think isn't it it's if you view Hades as just like, oh, he's the king of the damned, like, yeah, that's a little bit scarier. But let's talk about the ocean. Like, how many
Yeah,
people has the ocean killed? Like, how many
right.
hurricanes happen a year? Like, Poseidon, I think, is a more bloodthirsty if we're talking about the amount of people that like the ocean has killed versus like lightning or anything in the sky. And
Mhm.
even in like Greek myths and in modern stories, they always like to portray Poseidon as like he's what's the right word? He's petty. Like
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I don't like you."
And, he's as powerful as Zeus, I
Yeah.
think. I mean, they're equals, he just has a different plane, right? I feel like there was an argument about that they were, because it was actually Poseidon and Zeus, who were trying to woo Thetis, Achilles' mother. They were both trying to, you know, get
Trying to get with
get with
her.
her. Get with her. Yeah, they were both trying to get with her, and then the prophecy is what stopped it, and then Zeus had her married off, and like she can't be with any immortal because any son would then be greater than the father, and it would be a repeat of the Olympians, overtaking the Titans.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's again, I do think that that is just such a fascinating aspect of the gods in Greek mythology is that they understand that nothing is immortal. Like, yes, they are immortal beings and there is a level of hubris that they have, but in the back of their head, they do have this idea of like, no, we are not like we're eternal, but we're lowercase e eternal, not capital E
Mhm,
eternal.
mhm, mhm. I liked how in the beginning of this movie, how they told the story through the stars, and
Yes.
they made what looked like nebulae reshaping and looking like the gods, and the Kraken kinda came out. It was very subtle, and I didn't notice it at first, and then I realized, "Oh my gosh, yeah, that's what they're doing."
Did
But that
you
was good.
did you ever see the animated film Sinbad? It was a DreamWorks
Uh,
film.
I it's maybe so long ago, I don't know.
It
I
wasn't,
know of it, but it's been a
um
minute.
there's the Greek goddess of chaos is the villain
Mm,
of that movie, and I'm blanking on her name right now, and the movie opens up where it is just the stars, and then mist
mhm,
appears, and she's just walking down, like, steps that form, and all of her pets are actually the creatures of the constellations, and they start moving around, and she appears in front of, like, a globe of the Earth, very similar to what you would see in a classroom where it's just there, but she's able to, like, zoom in and see, like, the oceans, and there's waves going on, and she's like
mhm,
moving the cloud. It's very similar to what we were talking about the world just being on the ground there, but
yeah.
I love it because it's like me whenever I had a lizard. I'd be like, "Oh, what's going on with my lizard today? Oh, do you want your little cricket? Let's go in there." And then like she's like, "Oh, let's do a little chaos." And then she'd send like her like she'd take the constellation and throw it onto the earth and it'd appear as a monster. And
That's
again,
cool.
like, it's complete side story, but, like, it's that same idea of using the stars and the constellations
Mhm,
because as we talked about it last week, that was something that was very important. The idea of having a constellation of yourself was a great honor, the gods
right,
forming,
right,
like, immortalizing you.
right, exactly. Like, that's how we got, Sagittarius,
Mhm,
right? The centaur, and then, Castor and Pollux, the Discori,
mhm.
Gemini, so
Well, and I even like it's funny you say that as well because I even remember it was such an important thing and again, I know that the Hercules movie is like one of the least accurate stories Disney's ever portrayed, but that was when Zeus formed Hercules in the sky, like that was Phil, his trainer's like dream of having somebody be idolized by the gods in a lot of ways there.
is that Hercules the cartoon one?
Yeah, Hercules the cartoon.
There was a live action of that too, right?
There's been several attempts at a live action.
Didn't they do The Rock was but who's the actor that does Thor? Wasn't he's
Chris
a
Hemsworth.
Hercules? Was he a Hercules?
I don't think so. Let me see.
What movie did he do?
Worth
I feel
Greek.
remember Kevin Sorbo?
Yes,
See, that you either have to go full campy, but that's gonna appeal to 12-year-olds, or you're gonna have to do it
yes,
super serious. Or the only other way to do Greek mythology is to do it super serious like a Game of Thrones type of thing.
exactly. It has to be either rated R or it has to be G. Like there's no in between.
Yeah. And all these movies, they make them PG-13, you notice that?
Well,
They don't quite take it to they don't make it adult.
I think
Which
that Deadpool is slowly showing that you can make $1 billion if it's good enough. And I'm also, and again, I know you're not excited for it, but I'm still so excited for Christopher Nolan's Odyssey film over here. Which is that PG-13 or is that R?
it's gonna be R, I'm sure.
It'd have to be, and I'm
Just for the violence alone, I
oh,
think.
yeah. I mean, the violence alone, the scantily the scandalous nature of it. Well, and I mean, like, uh, the Cyclops alone just he's gonna be eating people.
Yeah. like, right there, eat their heads, right there like puppies, it says in the
Mhm.
Odyssey. He ate them like puppies.
Which
What
how does one eat something like a puppy? Like, how do they eat
this crunch like, if they were little puppies and you just crunch them in your mouth, I
I'll
guess.
just
So I'm trying to s Don't tell your doggy that. Yeah,
That's well, and I
right?
mean, we could go like because I talked about this quite a bit on the podcast where when I talked about the 1998 Hercules, that again, there's a lot of similarities between Hercules and Samson from the Old Testament of the Bible. Like you
Mhm,
could very much see how those two stories
mhm,
are very I don't want to say copies, but like for example, one of Samson's most famous acts is he kills a lion with the jaw
mhm,
of a donkey. And one of the
mhm,
tasks that Hercules does is he kills the Nemerian lion and
mhm.
then wears that as his but anyways, I can like I that's so as growing up in a religious household, I just love seeing how all the old myths tie in together and like
Mhm.
just how they like again, just it's one I love mythology, I love the old stories, and so it's just
Well, that's why I think I had been talking with somebody, but I had mentioned that, I see a lot of similarities with Darrow and Achilles.
yeah.
That's because the Greek myths are part of what developed we have a lot of archetypes that we
Mm,
study from the ancient Greek mythology, even from what's the Epic of Gilgamesh, I think. That's the oldest epic poem that we have, I think.
yeah. Well, I eventually really wanna reread the Odyssey and the Iliad. I
Mhm.
wanna read the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I also wanna read the original Beowulf legend.
Yes. That's a good one. Have you seen the 13th?
I haven't seen the 13th Warrior, no.
Okay, so that's based on, Beowulf,
Okay.
and it has, the 13th warrior is oh my gosh, he's married to I see all the faces, but I can't remember. I have to Google it now. As we Google, because I could tell you all the things that the actor who's the 13th warrior used to be married to the wife I can't keep going.
No, it's
Because you know what the thing is I see faces and
yeah.
not the names, and so I can have all the faces, which is why I make all these connections. Anyway,
No, I'm in the same boat. Well, if it's all right with you, is there anything else that we wanna talk about in the first chapter, or do we wanna move on to the second chapter?
let me see. Now we can move on to the next one. I think we
Alright.
covered Liam Neeson, and I think we
We
got
covered
that.
Voldemort.
And Voldemort, we got that. Yeah, we did it.
Alrighty. Chapter 2 The Serpent's Gaze. Driven by vengeance rather than destiny, Perseus joined Draco and the King's Guard on a desperate trek across the scorched earth. They are guided by a mysterious Io, an ageless woman who has watched Perseus from afar. As they journey the divine and the monstrous coverage, Perseus subtly rejects a sword forged on Olympus, refusing to become the son of the god who allowed his family to die. Their path is bloodied by Cabos, the twisted remains of King Acrylis, who spilled blood conjuring the titanic scorpions. Only an uneasy alliance with the Daijin, desert sorcerers of wood and magic, allow them to survive. The trail leads them to the shrieking witches who reveal the truth as cold as the grave. To slay the unkillable Kraken, Perseus must take the head of Medusa. The group descends into the scorched pits of the underworld, entering the temple of shifting shadows and stone cold silence. One by one, the soldiers are picked off, turned into lifeless statues by the Gorgon's emerald gaze. In a frantic, heart pounding duel, Perseus uses the reflection of his shield to navigate the darkness, finally claiming the trophy that can turn flesh to mountains. I actually like that in this version, we get the giant scorpions from Cabos's blood rather than Medusa's.
Mhm.
Because again, I feel like this would have been a perfect chance for the Pegasus to be born from Medusa's head.
They already showed us the Pegasuses.
Yeah, and there was really no
Pegasi,
reason for it. Like it was like
right.
the most pointless scene.
Well, that's because and I think that was to introduce that the Pegasi were there, and she called the one the Pegasus, the big black one, right? That
Yeah.
that was the so that the Pegasus could come in as a, drop in as a deus ex machina and save Perseus at the end,
Well,
basically.
and I even think that that was a subtle nod to the last one because it showed all the white Pegasi and they all looked the same exact as the one in the 1981 version. But then the
Mhm,
black one comes in and scares away uh
mhm.
the white ones.
It was not they did a good job with that, making
Yeah.
the wings look real, and it didn't look hokey, like, very real.
I really think that between 2000, 2015 is some of the best CGI that we've seen because again, another subject that's consistently brought up on the podcast, Pirates of the Caribbean, like the first 3, I think is some of the best CGI that we will ever see in ever.
Mhm, mhm,
Like, again, there's so many good things, like Dune does a great job. There's a lot of really great CGI that's in Star Wars, the new ones, the story's trash, but the movies, the CGI is good. But it just to me is so sad because if you look at Dead Man's Chest, if you look at World's End, if you look at this, the CGI looks so good and it holds
mhm.
up. But then you watch some of these like Marvel movies and the CGI, I don't want to say the CGI feels lazy because I don't think it's necessarily
I
the
think they started using AI. There's gotta be they were the I don't know I could be totally off base here, but I think there was a lot more craft into the AI, and I think
yeah,
that you said lazy, I think they're relying a lot on computer generated stuff that's because I look at some of the AI movies that they're doing now, people are making just the Star Wars ones,
yeah.
the Red Rising ones, some of the Red Rising ones are really good, you know?
Well, and
And that's
that's what
just somebody sitting there with Midjourney and whatever programs out there making videos.
well, I have to agree with you on that because I'm a big Studio Ghibli fan. I don't know if you how many Studio Ghibli films that you've seen, but
I
that
don't even
I
know what that is.
so Studio Ghibli is one of the biggest, animated studios in the world. They produced, like, Spirited Away, they produced, Boy and the Heron, they produced Howl's Moving Castle. They're all, Japanese
Mhm.
animated
I
films.
recognize the moving castle one.
Yeah, Howl's Moving Castle is very famous, and the main guy who, is involved with Studio Ghibli is considered one of the best directors in the world. Like, when he produces a movie, a lot of American actors almost beg to be voice actors in those films because he is such a legend. But because he is such a legend, he is almost borderline, I mean, not borderline, he is unreasonable. There's one
Mm,
particular shot that took a year and a half for them to do, and it's literally 9 seconds in a movie, and it took them
mm,
a year and a half to draw because and I sort of respect this, he demands that all of it be done hand drawn. He does not do any computer animation, and he was one of the first people to come out and say like, "Hey, AI is soulless. I view AI as soulless." Like, it's not even he doesn't even consider it art. He is offended at the very idea of it, and I still appreciate that he's willing to like, I still think that computer animation, like, if you are going in there and being a computer artist, that's still different from being, like, just AI generating,
right.
but I still appreciate that he's going in and having his artist draw, like, each shot by shot, sort of like how they did with the old Disney films, because
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
nostalgic for that.
right. That's the difference between I saw somebody, and no offense to anybody who's out there that does digital art, but the artist basically took a photograph and traced it. They're just tracing the body shapes and whatever,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of add the things, which is very different from my favorite artist right now is actually Carolyn, she's on socials as Red Murphy, and she does pencil and charcoal, and she
Mhm.
sketches all of that out by hand, and I feel like that's so different, like what you're saying. That's different than tracing something, You know what I mean? She's not throwing up a model and tracing it and then coloring it in. It's different.
I will say, and again, like I know that this wasn't what you were intending, but I still just to me, I am not artistically gifted. That
Oh,
is not my gifts.
yeah.
So I always appreciate when one of my friends, she always does art and gives art away as a gift. And I think that's like one of her pictures that she's done is just me wearing like a Game of Thrones outfit and Ramsay is on my lap and he has a crown on his head. And it's one
That's
of my
cute.
favorite. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm gonna have to eventually get one of this little monster though. But
Mhm,
again, going back to the film at hand, like, it's just sort of circling back this part of the film, like, obviously, the Kraken, we're gonna talk about the computer
mhm,
animation, but Medusa and Medusa's lair looks so good. And
mhm,
I love what they do with Medusa, but I do also wanna quickly touch on it. I know we talked about it last week, but I do wanna bring it up. When we watched the 1981 version, Medusa was just this ugly, like, monstrous woman, but again,
mhm.
they make Medusa's face beautiful. Like, in this one, she's got this gorgeous face, but then when she turns people to stone, that's when it goes, like, into a snake and
Yeah, right. It becomes scary. I thought this Medusa looked like a Barbie doll.
yeah.
It was the thought that that was cheesy. I mean, the
I
other one in the other movie was cheesy too, but this one, I mean, she didn't look real. It didn't look like a woman to me. It looked like a doll
yeah,
face. You know what I mean? With the
yeah,
snakes. So I thought that was, I liked the snake body on her. It was very long.
yes.
It reminded me of the serpent in Conan.
Well, and I agree, and I think that it also really did add the because in the last one when we watched it, it was very she was very slow and like it was but she was quick and fast and like jumping across and I think
Mhm.
that that's something that people don't understand that snakes are very powerful creatures. Their
Yeah.
bodies are essentially all muscle.
Right. Have you ever seen when you see any videos of people having a big snake, that people that live near a jungle, and they'll have like a big snake will get in their house or it goat moves like, oh my God, that's no way, man.
And they can jump. Like, people
And
don't
they
realize it, but they can,
yeah.
like, pull up and then jump, and that's what she was doing all over the place.
Yeah.
I think I went past it a little bit, but I did wanna touch on it. I really actually like because and I think that we're particularly set up in American culture to not really learn that much about Arabic myths with the exception of, like, what we learned from Aladdin and stuff. But the
Mhm.
Daijin, which are the wood magic fire people, they're
Mhm.
actually not Greek mythology. They come from Arabic myths. And
Mhm.
I it was such a weird, like, thing that they just decided to bring up, but I actually really liked that they had that aspect of them, and
Mhm.
they were able to, like, tame the scorpions and make it so that they could ride them over again,
Mhm.
when I first saw it, I was like, "This is really random," but then I was like, "You know what? If I'm just enjoying it, this is fun." Like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
roll.
Right? Just keep going. It reminded me of the Oliphants in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
When they were riding, on these, like, war animals.
Mhm.
That's what it made
Well
me think of.
Well, and very similarly, like because in this movie, the Daijin are just they're not humans, but they're others. They're these creatures that are very unknown and they hate humans. And we really don't know about the Haradrim, which are the humans in Lord of the Rings that ride the Oliphants, but they
Mhm,
very much are otherized in that. And they're like,
mhm,
we don't
mhm.
know much. They seem like barbarians, but at the same time, like they've got elephants.
Right? Yeah, yeah. That these kind of I didn't know the mythology behind it, but I knew they weren't part of the Greek mythology. But I guess they had to introduce they were kind of in a deserty area,
Yeah.
so that kinda
Well,
I guess that would make sense.
so it's funny that we talked about Willow earlier, but the volcano scene where they're right next to the volcanic area, they
Mhm.
filmed Willow in the same spot as this. So there's a lot of shared sites that
Oh, that's
they had with
interesting.
with the Willow movie as they did with this movie. And
Mhm.
I mean, I love it when especially fantasy films tie and connect with each other in these meaningful ways. And
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I'll have to give Willow another try. No, I
it's
haven't seen it, I just remember liking it. So I don't have any reference to what you're talking about, unfortunately. Dang it.
well, when you watch it, you just have to remind yourself as well, the main guy, he's 18, well, he's 17 years old when they're filming it. I think for a
Yeah.
17-year-old, he's fantastic. He does an amazing job, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about that. I thought the scorpion creatures were pretty scary. Like, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
good. You know,
Well,
just that stinger, and again, the CGI was pretty good. You
yeah.
know, it didn't look, hokey-ish.
And I especially like because in the 1981 version, Perseus sort of just defeated him and there wasn't really any like strategy behind it or anything. And they were like, it was actually a puzzle for them. Like, hey, how do we beat them? And they're like trying to get through its armor, but it's not going anywhere. And then like they have to like sneak through. And then eventually those weird nomad guys, which I do love myself, some crazy monster hunters. Those are always a fun
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Make the shield for Perseus.
I like at the end where Perseus, then there was like the grandfather one, the biggest one, kind of comes
Mhm.
over the cliff, and then there's Perseus, and he pops up out of it.
No, it's always the
That was
I think
good.
I
That
think
was good.
it's the not Noah, it's the Jonah analogy where they just
Mhm,
go inside of it.
mhm.
Uh,
Well, that's like
I
Darrow and the Leviathan,
it's
because they popped out of that, him, Severo, and Cassius. I got that far.
which I will say that that scene just does make me sad. The fact that they killed the dragon of the Raws and they killed the Leviathans of the other, like, again, I love the big monsters. I like
Yeah.
and have you again, not to deviate too far, but have you finished the duel between the 2 that,
Fa, Valsung
Fa
Fa. Yeah, that was pretty good. And Darrow was just going after him. They were just doing it. That was good.
I'm not gonna lie, like, I enjoy it, but I hate how much of a pansy Sun Fa ended up being. Like, I wish that he was a little bit more vicious and was a
Well,
little
he was relying on his armor,
yeah, and
and
once
once Darrow found a way to get past the armor, he wasn't really that fearsome, because he would just get somebody close enough to the poison, and had
yeah.
Darrow not, because Darrow had taken some sorta antidote prior to the battle, Darrow would have lost.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will say I am excited now to see what's his name? The pretty much replacement for Ragnar, the younger Sephi's old broodmate.
Right. Valdir? No.
Valdir.
Was it
I
Valdir?
think it's Valdir. I'm
Yeah,
excited to
he's the one that
finally
loves Darrow.
yes.
He's in
Like,
love
I'm
with Darrow.
excited for them to finally, because I don't think they've discussed him in a fighting sequence yet, and I'm
Mhm.
really excited to actually hear because he seems to be insane of a
Mhm.
fighter.
Well, I was listening to as we digress, I'm sorry, but I was just listening to the graphic audio of Golden Sun, and it was when Darrow and Severo crashed into, was it Lightbringer? Is that how we got Lightbringer?
Well,
Or
Lightbringer
was his flagship, the big flag, wasn't that how he got it?
no, that was in Morning Star.
What was the Pax? Okay. And then we had Ragnar and Darrow describing how Ragnar was frightened Darrow, watching him go through the golds, and he talks about how Ragnar was just flowing,
Mhm.
just there's an element, and Darrow got to that point. By the time he was fighting Fa, he
He's in that
found a
flow state.
right, but also the fight between him and Lysander in Dark Age, that was definitely, having Lysander see Darrow, and he described Darrow as, like, bulldozing through, just coming at him like a bull.
Yeah, just
So
being a force of nature, not a human, like, he oh, yeah.
mhm.
We again, we could talk about Red
I
Rising
know,
all
we're just I don't know how we got there, but we did. Sorry about that.
it always leads back to mythology, and it always leads back to Red Rising.
All the
I
time.
really like the witches as well. Like the witch scene,
Yes.
like
That was good.
it was unsettling. Like I loved because in the 1981 version, it was a ball.
The eye.
There was the eye. I think
And
Josh is
this was the whole optic nerve and everything. He was just
yeah.
holding it. All right, all right.
Which it's funny because, like, I don't understand because they're called like the Stygian witches or something like that. Why not just call them the Fates? Like, that's what they were. Like, they were the
Yeah.
Fates. Like,
Well, it reminds me of Macbeth.
yeah. Now that you mention that,
That's the
I
whole scene of boil, boil, what is it? Boil, boil, toil and trouble. Cauldron burn and cauldron bubble, or something like that.
well, because in both of them they were doing it.
Yeah.
I think Josh is bringing up a point over here. Adults, there were titties in the old one, which I think he was talking about how this one feels like the adult version of that one, which you're right, Josh. You're right. There were titties in the older one and there were no titties in this one. But there was a lot more. There was so much beheading in this movie or like guys
Yeah.
getting ripped in half. Like this movie
Yeah.
was,
Well, what the other movie was done in the 80s,
yeah.
right? Well, so the 80s was still a little bit loose. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things that flew in the 80s in a PG that wouldn't fly in the mid 2000s.
A
Like,
titty
nope,
was free back then.
yeah, you could have one. You could have one, but not two, or something like that. They had limits, but I
It's like
mean,
sex. You can say fuck
it,
once and that's it.
yeah.
Is there anything else that we want to discuss with chapter
I'm
2?
trying
Or
to
do we
write down. Nope, I think we got it because I wrote down some stuff, but we covered all of it.
All righty. All right, chapter 3, release the Kraken. Outside of the Gorgon's lair, Calibos strikes a final fatal blow against Io. Watching his mentor die, Perseus finally draws the Olympian blade, reclaiming his power to end the tyrant's life. As he mounts the soot-black Pegasus, the 10-day clock expires. In the Bay of Argos, the sea boils and erupts as the Kraken rises, a nightmare of scales, teeth to dwarf the city walls. While frantic cult prepare to drop Andromeda into the beast's maw, Perseus streaks across the sky. The battle is a clash of titans. Perseus evades the Kraken's massive limbs, unveiling Medusa's head just as the monster prepares to swallow the princess. The Gorgon's curse rips through the Kraken's veins, petrifying the Titan into a crumbling ruin of stone. With a final thunderous roar, Perseus hurls his sword into the heart of Hades, banishing the god of death back to his lightless prison. In the quiet aftermath, Perseus chooses the earth over heavens. He declines a crown and a seat on Olympus, choosing instead to remain a man. Though Zeus, in a rare act of fatherly grace, grants him one thing the gods took away from him, Io, restoring the life and standing by his side. I do just want to say, I do think it's a little weird that Io is the love interest in this movie. I mean,
That's not the story.
it's not the story, and it's also just sort of weird that they decide to make like an ageless borderline god, but not quite a god,
Mhm.
his love interest and not Andromeda, which again, like in
I
the alternate ending, she is the love interest. And it's
Mhm.
actually really interesting because when Perseus goes into the water, he goes in there to save Andromeda and he goes and kisses her to give oxygen to her, and that's where she like almost comes back to life and she sees that he's kissing her and
Mhm.
she starts to kiss him back and he's like, oh, that's not what I'm doing. Well, I guess I'm doing, if I'm here I might as well.
I felt like they were purposely setting up the end for a second movie.
Yeah, they
That's what it
definitely
really felt like to me. So maybe they took that turn because of how I haven't seen would you call it, the Wrath of the Titans? So
Wrath of the Titan.
I didn't see that, but is Io in Wrath of the Titans?
The funny thing is I think she's killed like in the first 10 minutes of the movie of
Mm.
Wrath of the
Mm.
Titans.
Mhm.
Or I can't remember. I remember that Percy has to get thrown back into another. This is my personal opinion. Again, I understand being tied to characters, but I don't like there's so many Greek mythology legends. Like you don't need to like make Perseus 2, Perseus 3, Perseus 4. Like you can do a story of the labyrinth and the Minotaur. I'm blanking on who that was in the Greek mythology. But who slays them? Okay, that's gonna kill me. Who slays the Minotaur? Who
Is
slays the
Yeah, because I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Theseus slays the
Theseus.
Minotaur. they can do a story of, I mean, I'm never opposed to them doing a story of the Trojan War. I'm never opposed to them doing, like, I would love for them to do a movie of like how Zeus overthrew the Titans. I feel like that
Right,
would be an amazing
right.
movie.
They one of the reasons I'm not excited about the Odyssey is because they made it a movie. The
Mm.
stories are so big. That's like saying we're gonna make that's like saying looking at all of George R.R. Martin's stuff or looking at all of Pierce Brown's, all the novels and say, "We're gonna make a movie out of Red Rising." How are you gonna get all that in a movie? Those of us who've read it are gonna be like, "You're not gonna be able to get all of these scenes in there." That's how I feel
There's
that's how I feel about like, that's why I didn't like the movie Troy. That's why there's gonna be a lot of stuff I don't like about the Odyssey. Not because it won't be a good movie, right? But there's
yeah,
gonna be so much stuff that's left out that explains why the characters are the way they are.
but you're
You know what I
still
mean?
gonna watch it.
I'm still gonna watch it. I know. Still gonna watch it. But the Netflix version of Troy Fall of a City came closest. But
Oh,
still,
really?
yes, but still, it's like they end it because they always end those things I think that with having like, "Oh, we could do the Odyssey next." But
Yeah.
you could do the Trojan War, there's so much like what I write about, there's that 10 years before we even get to the sack of the city. There's so much happening that you can fill in, you know?
So, just because we're on the subject, I'd love to just bring this up really quick. And I think it's just because I have been doing a lot of research about this film that my feed has been filling up with reels talking about the movie Troy
Mm,
that
mm,
has Brad Pitt as Achilles. And apparently, Brad Pitt in that movie was doing that movie as a favor for dropping out of another movie. And so he wasn't super excited about doing it.
mm,
And he's done interviews after that movie where he's like, "Hey, I feel actually really bad because you could like I feel like I was very flat in this movie. I feel like I didn't have a lot of emotion." But
mhm,
I was listening to this one podcaster, I'm blanking on his name, but he had the attitude like, "Hey, I actually think that that was a benefit for Brad Pitt because it made Achilles seem so much more like a godlike figure where he's just bored of everything
mhm,
except
mhm,
for when he's fighting. When he's fighting, that's when he's alive." But when he's
mhm.
not fighting, he's sort of just like, what's the point? Like, what am I to
Yeah.
do with life?" And when he
Mhm,
said that, I was curious on what your thoughts on number that, and two, I was like, that's probably I actually agree with that. I think that that shows him again being that that being the real god of war.
mhm, mhm. It's like, I think Achilles compartmentalized, like there was we could I don't wanna take you down I don't wanna take you down that road, but there's a lot of things about, like okay, I'm just, like, so backtracking, but underneath Achilles' rage is actually love, and so you get a sense of his compassion for his men. There's a line in the Iliad where he talks about that he takes care of his men like a mother bird,
Mm,
and you think that's a weird metaphor, right? I did a whole podcast on this. But then you think, what does a mother bird do? A mother bird catches the worm, right? Catches the insects, chews it up, and feeds it to the baby birds. So
yeah,
Achilles is developing this metaphor of this is how deeply I care about my men, like a mother bird.
yeah.
So why would you do that? Because you love your men. Like there's a connection and a feeling of great responsibility. And that doesn't come without consequence. So when they die, when they're injured, when he leads them into battle, these are troops that he feels personally responsible for. So and then Patroclus most of all. So when Patroclus is killed, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read the Iliad, so when Patroclus is killed by Hector, and that sends Achilles into what we call a great rage, because on top of that, for the first time is when we see his extent of his grief. And I think his grief from Patroclus is built on love and built on all the losses that he has compartmentalized for the last 10 years. He can't compartmentalize it. The barrier is gone. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's where berserkers come from. That's where, you know what I mean?
No, it's funny as you brought that up, and again, it always goes back to Red Rising or it goes back
Mm,
to but it's just
mhm,
reminded me it's not I won't say it's my favorite, but I think it's a top 10 favorite moment before after the time skip in Red Rising. And again,
Mhm.
I will be perfectly honest, out of all the Red Rising books, Iron Gold is my least favorite of it.
Mhm.
It's very important if you like it has its place and it has its moments, but it's so hard for me to get through it. But one of my favorite moments was when Darrow returns from Mercury and people are like celebrating, they're like cheering in the streets, and he's returning as a hero. And even though there's all this cheering, he's literally like screaming on the inside. He's like, there's so
Mhm.
much death. Like, I have lost thousands of howlers. Almost all my friends are dead. And he's just like sitting there and he's like just beating himself up. Like, he's
Mhm.
just a man who's so miserable. But and he's just like, I'm doing this to protect my people. But he's not even able to convince himself that he's doing this like, he's like,
Mhm.
is it even worth it?
Mhm.
And it's very similar, and I think that that comparison between Achilles and Darrow is just so similar because, I mean, I feel like both Achilles and Darrow have the attitude if they could just end the war by trial by combat, taking out the stronger
Mhm.
person, they would do that, but that's unfortunately just not how war works. That's like
Well, in the ancient epics, that was kinda how it did work. You would have a great battle, you would have, 2 warriors fighting, and whoever won the day, and then the battle would be over, and I guess the victors could take slaves or anyway, but the soldiers didn't have to die, and that's the battle and that was the setup for Menelaus and Paris, remember? So Paris
Mhm.
and in the Iliad, Paris and Menelaus are fighting, and then Paris is losing because he's not at the same level, you know, as
Yeah,
Menelaus is, and Aphrodite generates a mist and takes Paris out of the battle and takes him back into the palace. And when everything clears, Menelaus, that's when he starts yelling like, this is who my you left me for, Helen, this, basically this chicken shit. And and that battle was supposed to decide the war. Like, you'll give up Helen. If you lose, you give up Helen and we're out of here. And if I lose, we leave. We could leave Helen. That was the deal. Now, whether Agamemnon would have let Menelaus, like, keep that deal is another question. But that was the point of it. Like, we set the stakes, and then whoever wins is setting the terms. It's kind of like Fa and Darrow fighting too.
yeah. Well, and again, not going back, but again, like it's just something I'm very familiar with. But again, in the Old Testament, that's the story of David and Goliath. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember I think it's like the Canaanites or whatever it is where Goliath's from, where Goliath is their best warrior, and none of the people want to fight him except for David. He's willing to fight. It is just such a fascinating concept because I mean, like,
Have you
sure,
have you seen the Amazon show, David?
I haven't.
What? Oh
I
my
know.
goodness. That's a good one. Try
Should
that
I
one. I
check
did
that
watch
one
that
out?
one. You would like it
Okay.
if you like biblical stories, and it ends, the whole fighting with David and Goliath, and you follow David as a slave and all the
Okay.
things. It's good.
I'll
You
ch
might like it. I'm pretty sure it's Amazon.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
But, going back to,
Back to the movie.
I again, I already mentioned it, but I think it's a little weird that his love interest is this goddess-like person, but I also
Mhm.
find it weird that, and again, I understand what they're trying to do, but the entire movie, he's like, "I'm gonna kill Hades. I'm gonna kill Hades," and then at the very end, he's like, "I sealed him away. That's good enough for me. I'm fine with that." I'm just like, "What?"
Well, he doesn't technically do it, it's Zeus, because he holds the sword up like He-Man, "I am the
Yeah.
power," and he gets his father Zeus's power is what puts Hades away.
And the funny thing is, like, if we when we watch the next movie, he didn't even really get put away. He just like sent him back to the underworld where he can still just come back when he wants. It's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
what are we doing here? And
Mhm.
I think that that's the part that I struggle with the most is that there was no signs that the gods were actually being affected by man not worshiping them. And I wish that
Right.
there would have, and again, not to beat a dead horse, but I think that that's the problem I have with this movie in particular is that I
Mhm.
wish that they would have done that, is that they should have showed that the gods are losing their power. And I don't know
Mhm.
what that would have necessarily looked like.
Yeah, because Zeus certainly had the power at the end. He zapped that sword with all his lightning and was able to, and people weren't worshiping him yet. That's a continuity error, I think.
Yeah.
That's one of those doesn't really make sense, and they probably didn't think people were gonna sit on a podcast and pick that apart 20 years later.
Well,
The premise of your movie doesn't work.
what I would have done if I could have is I would have gone back and made it that it was more difficult. If gods are not being worshipped, it's harder for them to go through the plane of existence, like go from Olympus to the
Mhm,
mortal world.
mhm,
And again,
mhm,
like it wouldn't have made as an exciting film, but
mhm,
like that would have made a lot more sense. Like, oh, Hades is able to come to and from Earth as he
mhm,
will, but Zeus is trapped in Olympus and he can't see what's going on, or he can only see what's going on through his cloud oracle that's there. And
mhm.
that could have been a nice, but again, like this would have had to be a TV show to like establish like that's
Right.
what's
And that's
actually
probably the
happening.
problem is that some of the stories are because they can't be we're truncating so many aspects of the story that people know. Like,
Yes.
look at us, like we're picking apart, well, they didn't do this, and or they were supposed to do this, or the myth says that, or you know what I mean? But if you just saw the movie Troy, for example, if you just saw that and the Iliad didn't exist. It was just a story that got told as a movie, original screenplay, original story, right? We wouldn't have anything to really bitch about because nobody
Yeah.
Achilles would have been a brand new character. Nobody would have had all of these ideas of who Achilles was because they read the Iliad and they read Hesiod or they, you know what I mean?
You'd sit there and be like, Hector would never run away from Achilles ever.
Right? Right? Yeah. And we could go down that. Yeah, we should do a one of just about Troy. There's no dragons in it, but damn.
Hey,
Is
there's a
there
lot of big dragon energy in that.
there's big dragon energy, but Hector, they always make Hector to be so virtuous. But Hector was a killer.
Yeah.
He was a killer. He
He
was
was
the
the Prince of
Trojan
Troll.
he was the Trojans' Achilles. Everybody was afraid of Hector. And he had Patrick yeah, the only and after Apollo slapped uh Patroclus' armor off, yeah, he had Patroclus bent over his thigh ready to cut his freaking throat. He was ready to
Well,
like he was gonna defile the body. And I was like, "Dude, that's not virtuous. That was he wasn't
yeah.
trying to, and they try to make Hector so like when he realized he killed Patroclus in the movie Troy, and he was just like, "Oh no, I killed a boy. It's terrible."
Like he didn't care.
No, but I better put him out of his misery and, I gotta kill him, which I guess that's merciful, but, you
And
know.
I think that that makes sense to me why Ares was so drawn because Ares, what like not Patrick, Hector was Ares's prodigy, and Ares was obsessed with like protecting him, and like, and that makes more sense now that he's just more of a brute. But I don't know, I do like. I love a lot of the story of Hector because he is a brute, but he's also like he is the Prince of Troy. Like everyone looks
Mhm,
at Paris as like he's the reason that the Trojan War starts, but
mhm,
Hector's the reason the Trojan War continued.
mhm. Yeah, and he was afraid of Achilles. Can you imagine, like, he had opportunities, but
Yeah.
there was 10 years, and so the Iliad is only, like, 45 days. It's, like, the last 45 days till Hector dies, basically. That's not a lot of time, so what was Hector doing for the, 9 years prior?
Yeah.
Where you at? Where you at, Hector? Hiding behind the wall, that's what you're doing.
Such slander. Slander towards Hector.
I like Hector.
Is there anything else that we want to discuss about the film overall
Let me
before
s
we do our
Okay, I was gonna say that I liked the costumes.
yes.
I liked the costumes, and I actually liked the armor, you
The
know?
took a lot of care to make sure that their armor looked really good.
The shields were good and dented even, like, they really distressed it wasn't, like, brand new it looked like armor that had been used, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it was
No,
probably more classical looking type armor, but I liked it,
there's
you
one
know?
actor in particular that I really loved in this movie, and that was he's
Is that the Onion Knight?
I love that the Onion Knight is in it,
Yeah.
but, the captain guy,
Oh, yeah.
Mads Mix McSellen, I think his name is.
Yes. I like that. He has a sharp face.
Yes. He very much looked very part of the role, and I think that I'm looking at his filmography right now because I think he's in another fantasy film that I've seen. I know he is a very well-known actor and very respected.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yes. Well, I know he's who they replaced Johnny Depp to be Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts movie. I haven't seen
Mm.
that one, but who is he in Doctor Strange? He is the villain in Doctor Strange. Okay, that's funny. For some reason, I'm thinking of somebody like there has to be something else that I'm thinking that he's in.
He has one of those faces.
Yeah,
Let me
it's very
see.
much like a Cillian Murphy face.
Yes. I love right? Let me see. Mads Mikkelsen. I feel like I have seen him in like when he was younger in movies.
He looks like a majority of the films that he
So
was
he
in
was
was.
in Hannibal?
Yes, that's probably one of his because he was in the TV show Hannibal, right?
Mhm.
Because he was Doctor Hannibal.
So he was in he has a whole bunch of stuff. Let me see. Dust Bunny? I didn't see that. The Last Viking? These are recent. 2025. He was in North, he was a voice in Mufasa, The Lion King.
Oh,
I don't know. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
we don't talk about that here.
I don't know. I don't know. But he was in Rogue One. He
That's
was
right.
in Rogue One.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
was.
he was
Yes.
the scientist who refused to work on the Death Star, and then he was forced onto it. Okay,
Yep.
no, that's great.
He was in The Three Musketeers. The young, confident I don't know what he was playing. But anyway, he was in the movie. That's funny. Look at us going down. We better stop.
We're going through all the rabbit holes.
We're going down the rabbit hole. Sorry, nobody wants to watch us Googling stuff.
Someone's trying to tell me that it's almost time for them to get a WALK over here. But,
Oh,
is there anything else that we wanna talk about before we
no,
do our draft?
no, I think we got it covered.
Alrighty. Well, then we're gonna move on to our dragon grade.
Alrighty.
Each week we do a grade for our dragon that we cover in the media. There is 5 categories that we grade in. Those categories are design, special effects, character, film, and X factor. We scale on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being abysmal, 10 being incredible, and 5 being okay. Now, Janelle,
Mm.
what do you give the Kraken from the uh, Clash of the Titans on a scale of 0 to 10 in design?
I would give it an 8.
Okay,
I
let's
liked it.
hear it. What do you
I
like?
liked how it was sort of okay, so the face of it reminded me of the monster in Star Wars that Luke had to fight in Jabba the Hutt's.
The rain car.
Right? There yeah, so, like, he had sort of, like, that looking head, but he also had, like, the squid like, the arms, right?
Mhm.
So I liked how massive it was.
Yes.
I really just the sheer size, and then it had, like, the big claws. So it kinda had, like, a mishmash of different creature elements that I thought was good. And I
No,
like
go ahead,
I
go
like
ahead, go ahead.
and I no, and it had a great roar.
Mhm.
You know, it was that kind of roar like like a Tyrannosaurus Rex roar, you know? It was good.
I'd be curious. I don't want us to waste any more time, but I'll have to look up and see what they actually used as its roar because I'd be really curious to see what they did for that
Mhm.
because it did sound good.
Mhm.
No,
And I liked how it died. I liked that when they showed it Medusa's head, because it was so massive that it took a while for, the stone effect to happen. And it was
Mhm.
almost didn't work because his claw was coming down like, I'm still gonna try to get you. And then it froze right at the last minute.
Yeah, he was
I thought that was great.
he was almost acting like he got stung by a bee at first. He was, like,
Right?
shaking,
Yeah.
screaming, and, like,
Yeah.
slowly creeping, and he was like, "Oh, shit. Oh, shit."
Yeah, like, "What's happening? What's happening?" Yeah, kinda like Darrow getting poked by the poison of Faw's armor. "What's happening to me? I feel my arm feels a little limp." I feel like that's what the Kraken was doing, just like that.
I'm sure that's what it was going through there.
Mhm. And they showed us the camera angle. I feel like we got to see a lot more of it, so
Yes.
There was when it first comes out of the water, we just kind of see like this, and then we don't see the head till like that's another reveal. So we got the monster was being revealed in chunks. You know what I mean?
Which I think that would have I'm struggling to remember, but that must have been so awesome to see in theaters. Like, with
Mm-hmm.
the big screen, with all the just surround sound and just seeing that massive head and then it roar, like, that I'm sure was just
Roar.
awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
put that one I wonder what that would be like in the seats. You know the seats that they have that have the sound effects and the seats move around and stuff,
oh, yeah. Yeah, I
right?
bet you that that would be a
When it
lot of
roars, and
you're just going all over the place.
they would have to have sea spray, popping out of the chair, like, "Oh my god,
It feels like you're in a Disneyland
crack
ride over.
Kraken saliva."
Well, I agree that this is a great design, and it's funny that you said, the rain car in Star Wars because I was like, I definitely see that, but I was reminded when I first saw it was the cave troll in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that too.
Like, it
Yeah.
has a very similar facial structure, and
Mhm.
I do find it funny because they claim that this is a remnants of the Titans that ruled before, but they view this as just almost as a dumb beast, like, it's just
Mhm.
their pet, and I almost love this, like, mythology where they domesticated Titan to just be their attack dog, and but that's not necessarily designed, but I agree, I love just how bulky it is, I love just how it's just this pure muscle, I love that
Mhm.
they clearly took a lot of inspiration from 1981 version of it, and it's
Mhm.
still a lot of fun there. I do love the tentacles, and I love that it has claws.
They gave us like uh, an overview. It was like a drone shot. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So we're looking down at the crack and going, "Arr," turning into stone, which I felt like that really I like just to give us the sense of the size of it,
Yeah.
and that it was thrashing around. That was good.
Well, and I especially like and again, I know this is not the design of the Kraken, but it's tied to it. I love how they did the whole, like, sacrificial setup for
Mhm.
Andromeda just right
Mhm.
there, because in the original one that we watched, it really wasn't that exciting in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, because she was just chained to these rocks that were down on the
Mhm.
beach, and it sort of
Mhm.
just appears, and you don't really get to see that size, but where she's literally at the top of the city, and she's on this
Yeah.
pedestal, and
And
you
it
the moment
pops up and you see its eyes
yeah,
like
and
right
that
over the lip of the cliff.
you just get that sense of terrifiedness, like, it's just oh, it's so good, but that being said all that being said, I do really like it, I'm gonna give it a 7, I think that it is very good for design, but
Mhm.
we're moving on to special effects, which actually, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm gonna
Okay.
just, what do you give it on special effects?
I would 1 to 10. I think I would give it, at least an 8.
Okay,
Maybe
talk me through
maybe
it.
an 8 or 9 because we got to see very did not look hokey. It didn't
Mhm,
wasn't blurry, you know what I mean? And we got
yeah.
to see a lot of its body. I mean, yeah, from, like, the drone I'm just calling it the drone shot, the overhead shot. We saw, all of its arms, we saw its shoulders, we saw, like, we got to really see, like, the whole thing, I thought. And that close up of its hand coming, and turning into stone. So, I feel like that was well done.
Now you might think I'm crazy for this. I'm gonna give my answer before I give my reasoning because I think
It's
that it's
okay.
gonna I'm giving it a 10. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that I think that this movie, like again, that Liam Neeson and Ralph Fiennes do a pretty good job at like they do a great job acting, but with the costumes and the special effects, this is where this movie succeeded. They put
Mhm,
so much effort and it's an this I think is just reflective of there, but they
mhm,
clearly put so much time and effort in creating the Kraken. They made sure to just make it so realistic. And again, I know this is not how you're supposed to do it, but I watched this movie on my phone. I watched the movie on my phone and not on my TV. I
mhm,
still this looks so good. It looks so incredible.
mhm,
And especially with it being 2010, like, I know that I've talked about movies that came out before that's past it, but this is where they are excelling and they're really showing where the money of where
Mhm.
the budget is going. And I'm going to give credit. I think that it's a 10. I think that there's very little that they could have done to make this monster look better than they
Mhm.
did. And I think that again, there's a lot of flaws with this movie. Special effects is not one of them, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and we gotta give the homage to the Archimedes.
Yes.
Like, that was great. Was that the original Archimedes from the first movie? Was you know what I mean? I wonder. Did they
I
repurpose that?
think so.
I don't know, but it looked pretty close. I don't know.
It did look
I don't mean
close.
to take away yeah, I'm sorry, we're
No,
rating the Kraken.
I'm trying to remember it. But anyways, this one I don't think it's gonna score nearly as well. Janelle, what do you
Mm.
give the character of the Kraken?
It's hard to say, like, there's no really personality to it. We didn't get, you know, so I don't know. But it was still I guess I'm gonna give it a 6 or 7 because I just don't understand why it took so long to eat her. Like, why does
Yeah,
that take so long? Like, if you're that bad, you just come up and be like, "Snatch." Like, why are you taking so long?
yeah. No, I agree.
Mm.
I will say it's a great demonstration of power, and like I said, I think it's a really interesting aspect where the gods created this god killer monster essentially, because that's what
Mhm.
the whole idea. It's more of like a living weapon than it is actually a
Is
person.
yeah, because they were supposed to be afraid of it.
Yes,
That's
and
that's why it
yeah,
doesn't run loose.
but we really don't get that much personality other than it is like a natural it's a monster. It has
Mhm.
no thought process, it doesn't have any free will. And I do have it hurt there because it's not I do like it if would have loved to see if it would have had even a remote level of personality, but I also get what it is. I don't want to say that it's bad because it's not bad. It does a great job relaying that it is a force of nature and that it is definitely a monster. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it really doesn't give anything me to work with. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
say 4, which is
Mhm.
mediocre for character. But again, I don't fault you for saying you're 6 or 7 on that front there.
Mhm. Well, it's kinda like, you know, when you have King Kong, you know,
Mhm.
King Kong has character
Yes.
because he has feelings, which you know, which we understand. Even like the Cyclops in the Odyssey, he has character
Mm.
because he talks and he's even though he's being, you know, eating humans and, he eats like 6 out of the 12 of Odysseus's men. There's still you know, he's kind of an asshole, but yet
Yeah.
Odysseus snuck into his house and was eating his food, like, that you know, that wasn't how hospitality worked.
No.
Anyway, but but the you know, the Cyclops had, there was, like, something there was personality to work with. I don't really feel like the Kraken had any, you know,
Yeah.
personality, or even the dragons in Game of Thrones. They have personalities, they have a story behind them, and we watch them grow from eggs and hatching to babies in the fire. There's more there, and you know what I mean? Anyway.
Well, one of my favorite podcasters that talks about, Game of Thrones and, like, the history of Game of Thrones, he has consistently said that that's the part that he dislikes the most about House of the Dragon is because these dragons are more than just steeds. They are more than just creatures they ride to war. They have personalities. Like, they don't speak, but they are their own beings, and they are
Mhm,
intelligent in a lot of their own ways. But
mhm.
in the show, we just don't see that. They don't relay that over, and
They
I
kinda
think it's
give a little bit what was the scene, and I can't remember her character name, but the dragons are in that giant cave, and she's getting all the half-bloods, all the bastards, and
oh,
she's
Rhaenyra.
showing Rhaenyra, and she's showing all the exposing them to whatever that giant dragon is, and then he was just
Uh-huh.
torching people he didn't like. So
Yeah,
that was an element of that's smart, the dragon is choosing,
yeah,
right?
and he's being a little harsh, but he's
Yeah,
choosing.
but I don't know the lore behind that dragon being
Yeah,
so fearsome, and they're so big, so, like, they've gotta be old.
yeah.
Like, they don't dragons don't I don't get the sense that in Game of Thrones, they don't grow to their full size in, like, a couple of years,
No, it takes decades.
right? And that's why, you know, the biggest dragon was just massive, and the one character basically snagged him. he wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be the daughter's dragon, right?
Well, and this is a mythology that I love about dragons, that it's universal, it seems like, with a Game of Thrones as well as others, is that dragons never actually stop growing. They'll just keep
Mhm.
growing and keep growing and keep
Mhm.
growing. And that's where the mythology of like a dragon sleeping on a hoard of gold comes from, because they eventually just get so big that all they do is sleep and eat. Like they'll sleep for days and days and days, and they'll only wake up to go eat. And then they'll go and because it literally just requires so much energy for them to move because they are just so massive. And again,
Mhm.
one day I'm just going to do a podcast where I talk about the mythology of dragons in general. I
Yeah,
haven't,
that's cool.
like, funny enough, I haven't done that, but we'll do that. But
Yeah.
going back to the dragon
Okay.
grade,
Okay.
Janelle,
Back on target.
back on target. What do you give the movie Clash of the Titans 2010 on a scale of 0 to 10?
I'm gonna give it an 8
An
because I
8? Oh,
was I remember that I watched it or tried to watch it when it first came out, and I wasn't that impressed at the
yeah.
time. But now going back to it years later, I was pleasantly surprised that I was just like, "Huh, how did I not see this before?" Like, how did I not I don't remember liking it so much.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
It's fun.
It was fun. I think what we were talking about earlier, had they made this like a rated R movie, but for some reason they want to make Greek mythology juvenile.
Well, I think the real I don't yes, I do think they wanna make it juvenile, but I also mainly think that PG-13 is statistically shown to be where the most money is,
Mm.
and luckily, Deadpool is proving that you can make rated R movies that make a lot of money, but up to this point, before Deadpool, I'm blanking. I'm sure I know it
So
if it
do you mean like movies that are rated R that are fantasy?
well, just move like before here, let me look at a list of most profitable rated R movies. Okay, here's this is interesting. Deadpool and Wolverine are is the number one most profitable. Actually, I'm just going to say this. In the top 10 most profitable rated R movies of all time, only one of them was made before 2010. And
Hmm.
that that was The Matrix Reloaded. That's the 7th
Mm.
most profitable rated R movie of all time. And before that, The Passion of the Christ is number 11, and that's was a 2004 film. Really um before 20 yeah, I'd even say before 2015. Now that I'm looking at this list, there's not that many movies that are profitable. Like, I shouldn't say profitable, they're all profitable, but like crazy profitable, like because number 10 on the list is Logan, which came out in 2017, and it made over $500 million. But
Mhm.
before then, a lot of these movies, even 300, like 300, the movie 300, which came out in 2007, that made $456 million, which again is a lot of money. But if you're wanting to make a blockbuster, a lot of times they don't want to take the risk of making a rated R movie, because you're automatically cutting out a whole audience of people that are going to be there. Now, I
Mhm.
completely agree. I think that they should just lean into it and make the movie, because I mean 300 was I loved 300. 300 is
Mhm.
like one of my favorite rated R movies of all time. Gladiator, an amazing movie, that's rated
Well,
R.
they
Uh,
become those movies become cult classics. Like
yeah.
I'll watch Gladiator over and over again. Like I don't know how many times I've seen Troy, even though I love to hate it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I would not I'm looking at this list. On this list of the top 10 highest grossing movies worldwide, Avatar is at the top. I probably watched that once. I was like, "Oh, okay, that's good." And then The Avengers, Avatar again, like, I haven't even seen the second one. I haven't seen the third one either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you're not missing two. They're beautiful. They're beautiful movies.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
but
just looking at all these movies, like, I like Titanic, I probably watched that one a few times. Star Wars:
mm.
The Force Awakens?
Well, I think the
Which
reason
one
that
was that?
that was the we don't talk about that one.
'Cause I don't even know if I don't know. But that one's on this list. I don't if that's the one with Rey, I don't like any of the movies with Rey.
Well, I think that one made so much money because Star Wars came back after being away for so long, and so
Well,
everyone was ex
we were expecting something to happen, and I was ready for something to happen, not like, what happened was dumb,
yes.
but
Well,
my point is these movies on here are not movies that I would see over and over again over time, like, I don't care. I don't care if I never see them again, but I'll watch Gladiator, like, every once in a while I'll watch that one again.
Well, going back to this, I think that, and again, you have to consider it this in a way is that a lot of these directors, a lot of these screenwriters are very prideful people and they
Mhm,
want to make a story that is their own. They don't want to have to rely on somebody else's work. And I think that
mhm,
that's why we don't really see a lot of these Greek mythology or Aztec mythology or Asian mythology stories because they feel like they're taking somebody else's work and glorifying it.
mm.
And my buddy who's really into the film industry and like learning about it says that some of these people are the most egotistical people you'll ever meet.
I'm sure. I think everybody in Hollywood is egotistical.
Oh, you have to be.
You can't be in Hollywood and be humble.
But on that note, like I think that if you are willing, like I'm not even saying this as a selling out, but if you're willing to just put yourself back in the back seat and add like tinges of your own art, there's a reason that these stories have been passed down for literally thousands of years because they're
Mhm,
still good and they still hold up. There's
mhm,
romance, there's tragedy, there's
mhm,
violence, there's action, there's twists, there's turns, like
mhm.
it's got it all there.
Right. Well, like, you said the 300, I mean, that was based on a real battle. The movie
Yeah,
was not historically accurate. However, the premise of the movie was based on history, right? You
yeah,
have the Spartans making a a suicidal stand against the Persians, and they were greatly outnumbered. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
No, and
that was based, loosely on history, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But you wouldn't want to teach that, use it as like, let's teach this was this was the this was exactly what happened.
well, I mean, Gerard Butler just was so hot in that film.
He was. And I remember him saying afterwards that he's like, the regimen that he had to maintain to stay that, he goes, "That's not even possible. Like, there's no way I could stay ripped like that."
No, their workout was insane. I did like a week of it once and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yes,
I it's
forget
just
it, forget it.
but
Well, it's like the Spartacus guys. They
yeah,
were on strict diets and workout because they were lean. Like, when you're running around in a loincloth, you better, if you're trying to can't really you can't costume that up. How you gonna hide
no.
that? Look
But
at that.
but going back to the film grade, I would say that if I would have watched this movie without seeing the 1981, I probably would have said that this is a 5 out of 10. I would have said it's
Mm,
okay. But I really do think that watching the 1981 makes this movie so much better because
well,
it adds a
I
lot of
can see that.
context, and I really enjoyed it in a lot of ways. I am actually going to give it I'm gonna give it a 6.5. I don't like
Oh!
doing point fives, but I think that it's somewhere between good and very good, and I think
Mhm,
it's the acting is a little weak on a lot of the actors there, but I think that the special effects, the costuming, the
mhm.
story itself is just so compelling that it's worth it to me.
I don't know if you could do serious acting, you know what I mean? Like, that you don't really get enough of the story to have deep character development, and they tried to give Perseus the orphan syndrome, right? His parents are
Yeah.
killed, so they tried to develop quickly that inner drive and this sort of, anger against the god, this rage, right? But we didn't really, I mean, that's it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
We
you're
don't
not
really
wrong.
have any, it's hard to do deep character development, I think, of the Greek myths because these characters immediately jump into whatever their adventure is.
Y It'd have to be like a 3-hour movie or more if they really wanted
Mhm.
to. probably
Right.
more.
Yeah.
But we have one more section, Janelle. What
Okay.
do you give the Kraken from the 2010 movie of Clash of the Titans on X Factor on a scale of 0 to 10?
And the X factor is what again?
What
Sorry.
makes this is it how unique is this monster slash drag?
Oh,
How unique is it from other monsters that you've seen in media? How unique, or really do it with this score as you will.
okay. So I guess on the unique factor, the X factor, I would have to say it's like a 6 or 7 because it did remind me of other monsters like we talked about.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem that it was all that unique. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. I mean, it was
Okay.
scary. It was scary. You know what? You know what? She didn't scream. I would just feel like if you were hung out there for this monster to basically eat you, I I don't know. I feel like wouldn't you just pass out? Just be like dead weight? Like, "Oh my god, heart attack, I'm dead." Like, "Oh my god." I wanna you know what I mean? She didn't yell or scream or really
Yeah.
thrash around. Like, why'd you just hang there? That's just weird. Not that
So,
scary for you, huh?
not to go back too much, but I think this is worth
Sorry.
touching on for just a little bit. No, 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 don't be sorry. I'm glad that you brought this up because this Andromeda had a touch of mysticism to her. She very much felt like she was more than just a princess. She felt very much like an oracle in a lot of ways. Like she
Mm.
felt like she had a tie to the gods. So
Mhm.
I interpret that as like she is almost like a child of destiny where she's understands like because she was willing to sacrifice herself for her people. She went out
Mhm.
to there and was doing it and had almost this attitude of like, this is what I was born to do. I was born to
Mhm.
save my people. We did not have a lot of time to flesh that out, but that's really
Mhm.
what I was getting from her is like,
She was
yes,
kind of a flat character, I thought. She wasn't
yeah,
very well developed. The whole
again,
point
this
was to use her as bait so that Perseus could show up and save the day.
exactly. I again, if this movie was 4 hours longer, if they would have done a TV show, we would have seen something different.
Yeah, right. So I guess that's why I give the a 6 or 7. It just wasn't I thought it was well done. It wasn't blurry. We got to see a whole bunch of it. But as far as like uniqueness, it's kinda I go back to everything kinda looks like Godzilla in the end.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I think that they do a great job like this is very unique from the 1981. They obviously
Mhm,
got a lot of inspiration from the 1981 version, but
mhm,
it's still its very own unique monster. And I'm glad that they didn't go with the classic Nordic version of the Kraken where it is just a giant octopus. It still has the
mhm,
octopus legs and it's like
mhm,
thrashing around, but they still give it the kaiju look, which I really appreciate that they do. I think I'm going to be, I think that it's a 7 on the X
mm,
Factor. I really like what they did there. And I think that it made it a really fun monster. And I also, again, I really like how it sort of looks like the Raincar or the trolls from Lord of the Rings. And
mhm.
it gives it a fun look there. But
What's a monster for you that's a 10?
a
Like,
10 that's
what
just
it
completely unique.
yeah.
Well, I will
Is it a
say the
monster or a dragon?
Well, it's typically it's a dragon, but so when we did Willow, we did the dragon that there it's not really a dragon, but it's like a two-headed monster that breathes fire. That
Mhm,
I think is very unique because it's not like it's not it's I've never seen anything like that.
mhm,
I actually thought in the old Hobbit film, the animated, Hobbit film, that was very unique because they portrayed Smaug as like a cat dragon. He was
mm,
very feline, which I've said this quite a bit that even though I didn't like how it looked, I like that aspect because there's a lot of traits that a dragon has that shares with a cat.
mm,
Falcor obviously is a very unique design because he's a dog dragon. I think the tough part is like I don't know if there is such a thing as a 10. Maybe again, maybe my audience will be crucifying me in the comments. Maybe I
yeah,
have given it a 10, but it's so unique because we as humans just naturally are inspired by others people's work or other things. So I think it's
mhm,
very hard for it to be a completely original, unadulterated by anything else
mhm,
idea.
mm,
But I'll go back and see if there are any 10s, but those are some that scored really high as the dragon, Smog from the animated Hobbit, the Falcor from the Neverending Story, and then the monster dragon
The
that's from.
Never Ending Story, man, that was a good one.
It is.
Right, it
We
really
really
was
enjoyed that.
good. I just made the connection, like, "Oh, yeah."
I did not
That
like the
was
second one.
the second one?
I
There was a
wasn't a big
second
fan
one?
of. There was a third one. The third one's awful.
I didn't watch any of those. I saw the first one.
That's
The
all you need to
first one.
see.
And you know what? That's probably why I stopped right there. It was good.
Well, we do have a final score for the 2010 Kraken.
Okay.
It comes out the Kraken from the 2010 Clash of the Titans comes out to be a 7.1, which is just over very good. I think
Okay.
that's very appropriate.
Yeah, I would think so. That's pretty good.
Well, that is a conclusion to our coverage of Clash of the Titan, both the 1981 and the 2010. Janelle, thank you so much. It's been so much fun covering this, going on this journey of us talking about Red Rising, talking about Greek mythology, the Odyssey, the Trojan War, everything. Where can people find your stuff?
You can find my podcasts on if you wanna listen to, like, any research about the Trojan War characters or the Trojan War. I'm on all the podcast platforms. You can find me there. And I'm usually on social media talking about my books or talking about Greek mythology or characters in Greek mythology.
Now, for those the people that didn't catch last time, just do the quick elevator pitch of what your books are, real quick.
My books, they're epic fantasy based on the Trojan War, so it's a mashup, and so it takes you from the development of the heroes and their families from the beginning all the way to the end.
There we go. Well, again, thank you so much. If you please go check her out. In the meantime, be sure to like, share, subscribe, share it with your mom, share it with your dad, share it with your girlfriend who's possibly an immortal witch who you don't know how she possibly, doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. But
Yeah.
until then, peace out, everyone.
Bye, everybody. That was great.
That's all for this week's Dragon Lore. Takes cold and hot, spread shore to shore. Enjoyed yourself? Please join the squad. Follow on social media at Big Liz Pod. And one quick reminder before you go to rate, review, and share the show. Thank you for listening. It means a lot. See you next week, same time, same spot.